Hey, I'm talking today to Travis Roy, who wouldn't remember me, but I remember him. We were actually in school together at BU at the same time. He's got an amazing story. I'm going to let him tell it. But it really is just a pleasure to talk to him. And it was funny because I knew of him many years ago, and I don't want to say how many. But I was sitting in a diner the other day and I saw him on TV, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I have to reach out to him," because I never stopped thinking about him and what had happened. And it's just an amazing story to see, where he was and where he's come from. So where he arrived at, I put it that way, in the face of adversity. So first of all, thank you for chatting with me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to join the show.
I'm so glad to talk to you. All right, so I would love for you to tell your story about the love for BU hockey and making the team and what happened after that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Maine. I grew up in Yarmouth, Maine. Spent the first 18 years of my life there. My dad, he happened to manage the local ice arena, so spent a lot of time at the local ice arena and out on the frozen ponds. My mother, she was a teacher and later became a principal. And then I spent a couple of years down in Marion, Massachusetts at a private boarding school and trying to hone my hockey skills and work on my academics. And then I got the dream offer to go play hockey at Boston University, which was, so I had a scholarship offer to Boston University, and they were, in the mid-90s, they were the powerhouse. They were sort of the Duke basketball or the Alabama football at the time. And so it was a big deal. And I remember I moved into my dorm in the fall of 1995, and it was just sort of the best a couple of months of my life. The being in Boston again, growing up in Maine, it was kind of a little quieter, a little more rural, and just the energy, the excitement, the diversity of being in Boston and just Boston University itself, just so much going on. And again, the hockey team was a pretty big deal on campus back then. And so I had set my goals early. I wanted to play in the first game for Boston University. They were the defending national champions, and wanted to be on the ice. And kind of being a freshman, we got to bust my butt and work hard and just kind of hopefully do the right things. And I it was a couple of days before our first game when Coach Parker, the head coach, gave me the news that I'd play in the first game. And my parents were there, and my sister was there, and some of my high school friends, my girlfriend, and I literally spent 18 of the first 20 years of my life working towards that moment. So it was about 2 minutes in the game we scored, and the old Walter Brown Arena, as you mentioned, you were there, and the place went nuts. The fans were going crazy. That band started playing, and then Coach Parker, he tapped me on the shoulder, and it was sort of my turn, my line's turn to go out onto the ice, and we lined up for the face-off, and the puck got shot into the offensive zone, and I skated in there just as fast as I could, and the opposing defenseman picked up the puck, and I thought, this is kind of my moment. I'll deliver a big shoulder check and knock him off the puck and sort of make my presence known. And as I did so, I didn't hit him quite as squarely as I'd hoped, and he moved out of the way a little bit, which was natural. And I lost my balance, and I fell headfirst into the dashboards, and I hit my head, and I kind of flopped to the ice. And initially didn't think much of it. Just kind of get back up on my hands and knees and get back into the game. And that's what my brain was thinking, and my body, it was dead. It wasn't responsive. It wasn't. It was a very awkward sensation or lack thereof, and almost instantly I knew that something very serious was wrong, and I didn't know much about paralysis or knew anybody that was really paralyzed, but right away I knew that it was probably paralysis, and it just felt like I had 10,000 pounds on me. It's just like this gravity that just I couldn't move a muscle or a finger. And so then it was the team trainer came out and the doctor came out, and they put me on the stretcher, and they put me in the ambulance and off to the hospital. And this whole life, this whole world that I dreamed of. I mean, there were guys on that team. There was a line mate on my line that night that would go on to the NHL, that would go on to the U.S. Olympic team, and those were sort of my dreams. That was where I was still headed and hoping. And instead, it came to an end pretty quick, and off to the hospital and X-rays, and sure enough, I had broken my fourth and fifth cervical vertebrae, and I have been paralyzed ever since. And it's a whole new life, and some of the excitement that I had before my accident has never returned. But at the same time, the opportunities and the people I've met and the places I've gone, and it's been surprising, almost shocking, how much life there was still to live that I just couldn't have anticipated, shortly after my accident.
Well, I find two things incredible about that. First, that you remember, 'cause I think, I've spoken to some people who've had some pretty impactful things, and they say, I just don't remember, and I woke up like this. I think it's incredible to hear that you remember every second of that, that split second that changed everything. And I think, like you said, sometimes we're put on a path we don't expect, and it's incredible what we can do, with in absence of other things. I mean, so when this happened and you had to go through, obviously, rehabilitation treatment, I remember you coming back to college at BU. How did you get yourself to that level? I mean, what did all of that take first before we get into what you're doing now? Because that had to be incredibly different. And that's when I remember meeting you and seeing you and thinking, God, how is this guy doing this? I can't even get myself together to go to class. That was incredible.
It's true, and I guess it's just complete naiveness. In all things I've done since my accident, when I look back, going back to BU, literally 6 months after my accident, 8 months after my accident, it was crazy. 10 months, I guess, but it was hard. It was really hard, and I guess thank goodness I did it, because I'm afraid my biggest, after my accident, I initially thought, well, what do quadriplegics do? What is their quality of life? And I guess I assumed there wasn't any. I assumed I would live in my parents' house in some attachment, and I would, meet them for breakfast and lunch and dinner, and sit there and watch, TV and the nightly news. My parents every night. That would be my life. Maybe somebody would come visit every once in a while. Turns out I could have been further from the truth. That I would be eventually back into much of the life that I had before. But going back to BU, the reality, it wasn't just a slap in the face. It was like 12 rounds of being slapped in the face, and just moving. And I made the decision to move back into the dorm, and Boston University was great. I mean, they did everything possible to make sure that I could be successful. And they gave me a private room, and I was fortunate that through the NCAA they had a catastrophic insurance policy, so that I had good insurance and home care to help me through my day. And but it was, I tell this story every once in a while, of just going down to that cafeteria for the first time, and when I first got back to campus, and the excitement and the energy, and the cafeteria being packed, and everybody, meeting up with old friends and meeting new friends, and anybody that's gone to college, that energy when you first get there, it's nerves and it's excitement. And I remember rolling in there and just thinking, what the hell am I doing? I don't fit in, and how's this going to work? And I didn't really know anybody else. And I knew some of the guys on the hockey team, but when you play a sport at a Division I school, it's a full-time job, and you're going to class, you're going to work out, you're going to practice, and you're exhausted. You come home, you go to sleep, and so I wasn't in those circles anymore with the hockey team, and I hadn't really thought about that. And I was like, well, who are my friends going to be now? Who do I relate to here? And I, people who had compassionate at the same time. They're off at college. They're going to bars. They're going to clubs. They're in wheelchairs and bars and clubs, and it's not a great match. Um, so yeah, so that was challenging, but there was also there wasn't a whole lot of choices. I mean, I could stay home with my parents and do that life, or I could try to see what else is possible. But the challenges were hard, going to just trying to figure out the academic part, the social part, and just the daily routine part. There was so much to just learn about my body and being paralyzed, and how to do things that took an hour, and eventually you learn to get it down to like 45 minutes. And those were the kind of gains that I was trying to make.
When you say there wasn't much of a choice, there was a lot of choices, and most people might have said, "No, okay, I won't do it." And I commend you highly for making that happen. And has anything, you said before, nothing's changed, but I mean, has anything in your body physically changed since then, or has it all pretty much been the same? Has anything returned?
Yeah, paralysis is a very unique injury in that because the damage is done to the spinal cord, and because there's millions of nerves and pathways that go that every injury is a little bit different. So whether it's where your sensation starts and stops, or where your mobility, what you have for mobility, and mine's generally referred to as a complete injury, which means the damage to my spinal cord was so severe that I have not had any return of function or sensation below my level of injury. So I can move my right arm a little bit. I have a little bit of my right bicep, the nerves that still make their way to my right bicep, and that's it. And it hasn't changed. For the first year after my injury, I got a little bit stronger and maximized sort of what my body did give back to me, and with my rehab, but it hasn't changed since. So it's which is crazy, because it didn't happen naturally, but more disappointingly, that the research has just been so slow, and progress is being made, and we're getting a lot closer in recent years than we were certainly 20 years ago. But, I thought by now I'd be walking again, or I'd certainly have more independence than I have. But it is what it is, and it just when you deal with this, it's so many cliches. It's sort of one day at a time, and deep breaths, and taking recognizing the simple things and the simple pleasures.
Yeah, I think it's always difficult for people when they haven't been through something, obviously to know the right thing to say, because no one can know. The one thing I could say is things change every day, so one never knows. I'd put it that way. And so, where are you now? What are you doing now, and how are you continuing to inspire people? Because I mean, just by people watching this a few minutes here, your story, there's not going to be a dry eye. But what do you really enjoy doing at the moment?
It's a good question. The first 20 years of my life, I had a passion, I had excitement, I had something that gave me a great deal of pleasure and excitement. But what I didn't realize quite how this was all going to unfold. But it turns out since my injury, I have found a purpose. And I always say you're lucky if you have one of those two things, a passion or purpose. You're a fortunate person. If you have one that's one and the same, if you have something that is a passion and a purpose, that's hitting the lottery, if you ask me. But so I've had a purpose in a couple different ways. Initially, a couple of years after my accident, we did start a nonprofit, the Travis Roy Foundation. Half the money we raise goes towards research, and again, we're getting there. The more money we raise, hopefully the sooner therapies and breakthroughs will be found. The other half, the money raised, goes towards adaptive equipment, assistive technologies for people with paralysis, whether it's a computer with voice recognition software, or a new bed that's more appropriate, that doesn't measure there's all kinds of technology that makes life with paralysis easier, and really it's incredible to do with disability if they just have the right technology. The other one, what else was I going to say? Um, so the foundation's been a very big part of my life, and I think we've raised over $17 million now, and
Wow.
so that's been fun. And then the other thing I do is I do a lot of motivational speaking, travel the country, primarily in the Northeast, but and I speak to all types of audiences, whether it's high school kids or colleges or big sales conferences or professional, some NHL teams, and so it's neat. You go to neat places and you meet great people, and it's yeah. There's always a little bit of a high when you get done with a speech and you get a nice reception, and again, it makes me feel like I've got a purpose.
Well, you certainly do, and I think it's inspiring just to watch you live every day. And I'm just so glad we were able to connect today, or sort of reconnect, and have you be able to tell people your story. How can they find more about you, or if they want to donate, where can they find more information?
Sure, they can go to the Travis Roy Foundation .org, and they can learn a lot about the work we do and the people we help, and the research we fund. And then there's also travisroy.com, although admittedly I need to update that website. It's a little outdated, but for my speaking. So as I said, I keep the two separate. My speaking is how I make my living, and they can certainly connect to me through either one of those sites.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we will put that link in the comments. Thank you, and I will chat with you soon.
Thank you, Gabrielle.